Yo, what's up with you? I want to take a second to talk about the natal chart. All right. You know, people have used the phrase life is a game, things of that nature. It's a video game, it's the Matrix, XYZ. So if it's the Matrix, if it's a video game, all video games come with instructions. And for us, our instructions are the natal chart. Everyone's natal chart is different and specific to them. But the natal chart is where you will find your personal instructions to not only beat the game, but play the game on an efficient level. Well, I'll say play the game on an efficient level to eventually beat it. Because in all reality, you have to supersede your natal chart to beat the game. You feel what I'm saying? But the way to supersede the natal chart, the directions are actually in the natal chart itself. You understand what I'm saying? And I've talked about before how I'm always talking about Lilith. You know what I'm saying? The great mother, dark moon Lilith. That's on your natal chart. And so let me just write that real quick. Lilith, aka dark moon Lilith, great mother, etc., etc. You get it. Now, to me, the way I look at it, Lilith is a culmination of all your shadows on your chart. Okay, let me say that again. Lilith, the dark moon Lilith, and the Lilith on your natal chart is a culmination of all your shadows on your natal chart. Okay, so let me give you an example. We always talk about what's your rising and what's your sun sign. So we have rising, sun, and moon. Those are three aspects, the first three aspects that people are always talking about. So you might have a rising in Aquarius, a sun in Taurus, a moon in Sagittarius or some shit. Everybody's starting to get hip to that kind of language and saying stuff like that. All right. So we'll just say the rising on the horizon line, we'll look at it as a morning sun. Your sun sign, your personality is like the afternoon sun. And the moon is, you know what the moon is? Dark side of the moon. And when I say dark side of the moon, I'm sure you've heard that phrase, the dark side of the moon. There's a part of the moon that we don't see, period. No, none of us have seen it anyway. But that's a whole different conversation. So what I'm trying to get you to understand is when the sun rises in the morning, it casts a shadow. So there's a shadow on that rising sign that you have to figure out. Remember, the Lilith is a culmination of all your shadows. So we're just talking with the first three that people are always talking about now, your rising sign. So your rising sign is whatever, but in reality, you know what I'm saying? The world that we see, when the sun rises in the morning, it casts a shadow. So there's a shadow on that rising sun. The afternoon, when the sun is in the middle of the sky, it casts a shadow. So your sun sign, your personality, has a shadow on it as well. And your moon, which is represented by emotions, it's a whole side of your emotions that are dark. So each one of these things casts a shadow. And our job is to go into that shadow and try to bring light to it, rectify it. You feel what I'm saying? This is a type of shadow work, or the shadow work that they're talking about. But remember, in the reality that we see, the real morning sun has a shadow. The afternoon sun has a shadow. There's a whole shadow on the dark side of the moon. So it's showing you that in the reality that we see and on your natal chart, these things are casting shadows. So different aspects of your natal chart, as you read it, you know what I'm saying, and go through it, each part casts a shadow. And it comes to your first big boss, one of your big bosses, Lilith, and that is a culmination of all your shadows. Many people don't make it to that big boss anyway, and we're speaking of it in the terms of a video game. They say life is a game and all that good stuff. So we're just seeing that these And then this is the most basic that people are always talking about. Even the dumbest nigga talking about this right now. But as an advanced scientist, as an alchemist, as somebody, you need to know each one of these things casts a shadow. So there's a shadow there you need to face, a shadow here you need to face, a shadow here you need to face, so forth and so on throughout your whole natal chart. This is a culmination of all your shadows. And now you're able to face your biggest shadow in here, which is also be your greatest triumph as well. You see what I'm saying? So I hope that's sinking in. I hope you're getting that. Okay. Please understand that. All right. Another thing about this natal chart. Remember, this natal chart is the directions to the game. One thing that I know about people is a lot of people are stuck in ego. And I'm always like, damn, where the fuck is the ego at? You know what I'm saying? That bitch is with you all the time. All the lifetimes you've come to this motherfucker, you've had the same ego. So every little spiritual thing you think you know and you this and that, your ego knows the same thing. So every time you try to go up, it's trying to bring you back down, if that's the language that you want to use. You know what I'm saying? I personally fuck with my ego. Me and my ego cool. You know what I mean? But that's a whole nother thing. You know what I'm saying? Because ego is not a bad thing. You hear people talking, oh, we need to get rid of the ego. Ego needs to be destroyed. Ego death and all that. Sounds cool, but in reality, come on. The ego's been with you from jump. The ego and the spirit work hand in hand, just like a sword and the shield. And sometimes you got to know when to strike, and sometimes you got to know when to block. You feel me? But if you use them the right way, you'll be a more effective fighter. So remember, I before E except after C. So that's just a little something I know. Shield is... All right. So just remember, ego is a sword. Spirit is a shield. You need both to become an effective fighter. All right. But I used to always ask myself, where is the fucking ego? Where is that? Where is that on the natal chart? Where is that? Where can I see what it is? Because even though you might be a Gemini, you might act like a Capricorn. You know what I'm saying? You might be a this where you act like that. Because all two people are similar, but not really all the way the same. So what I noticed, and I found it, and I want to share it, where the ego is on the chart. All right. North node. And then you have a south node. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar or have ever seen this on your charts. But this is another level of understanding who you are as well. What I have deduced and come to an understanding is your south node is where your ego lives. Your ego lives in your south node. Your south node is, let me see, ego lives here. This can represent your past life, or I'll say past life, or is that in the frame? Let's see. There we go. Or where you just come from. Where you just came from. Boom, 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 where you just come from. So ain't no big deal. Y'all know what it is. So the south node is where your ego resides. I encourage all y'all to look at what your south node is. When you look at it, that is your baseline personality. When shit gets too hard, or when you're about to do something, the south node is where you're going to, that's your comfort level. That's your comfort. That's your baseline. Regardless of what your shit is, this is your baseline. This is where your ego lives. I'm telling you, I've been looking at this shit for a minute and I'm like, damn, this is where your ego lives. This is your baseline. This is your baseline, your south node. This is the home of your ego. You can be an Aquarius and have a Virgo south node and be one of the tidiest, well-organized Aquariuses there is. You can be an Aquarius and have a different south node. Let's just say, I don't know, a Pisces or a Gemini or something else, and be completely disheveled or, disorganized or have this weird, quirky method on doing it. That's why two Aquariuses or two whatevers are never really alike, because the ego lives here. And this is where you project your ego from. Okay? Where does it go to? Your ego gets projected through your sun sign. Why? Because the sun represents the ego. That's the sign. This is a Leo. It's the ego. It's the personality. Your south node projects through your sun sign. So if your south node is something different than your sun sign, it doesn't mean that you're going to be acting exactly like, a Virgo would act, even though you're an Aquarius. It's saying that when this projects through that Aquarius sun, hold on, real quick. Remember we talked about sun sign. I'll just write it down. When this ego projects through this sun sign, it will take some of the personality traits, obviously, of the Aquarius or whatever the sun sign is, because the sun sign is built for this matrix. But this is kind of, you can almost say, the hidden sun. This is what's running it. You know what I'm saying? The south node is getting projected through this, and that's why this Aquarius is sloppy and that Aquarius is nice. Very organized. This Taurus is this, that Taurus is that. This thing is, you know what I'm saying? Because the ego, this is where your ego is projecting from, the south node, because this represents your past life. This represents something you've already done. This is your baseline of comfort. You know what I'm saying? And it gets projected through your sun sign and so forth and so on. And then that, is a shadow in that sun sign, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? So I encourage everyone to look at their south node. Look at your south node and see where your ego lives. I promise you, if you understand this, it's going to make sense. Okay? Now, there's a north node. Obviously, if you understand it, it'll make sense, right? But if you don't understand it at all, then do some more work. I don't know what to tell you. But so now, let's talk about the north node just a little bit. And I'm going to tell you the difference between these two. Your south node and your north node are always opposite of one another. Opposite signs. Opposite. These are opposite signs. So if this is Scorpio, this is Taurus. This is where you came from. This is where you got to go. You understand? This is what you've already mastered. This is what you're trying to figure out. You understand? So it's always going to be opposite. The south node is always going to be opposite of the north node. This opposite, like I said, this is what you've already mastered. This is what you're trying to ascend to. Okay? This is where your ego lives. This is where your spirit lives. This is the sword. This is the shield. You have to use both. You have to use both to be effective, to play the game effectively. Even Sister Myra said, if it's half, it's not real. The only thing that's real is the wholeness. That's why these are opposite all the time, because these are just It's the same energy, different expression. And once you bring it together, you have the whole full picture. You understand? Please understand that. This is key. This is key to you winning and playing this game. This is very key. And playing this game effectively to win. You understand from what I talked about, quick recap. You understand from what I talked about earlier in the video that each part of your natal chart casts a shadow. You bring light to those shadows to face the first big boss, which is really the final big boss as well, which is Dark Moon Lilith. You understand? But it's so beautiful about Lilith is that's the great mother. She's always going to help you. She's always going to love you. That's Mama Universe. Many people don't make it there, but that's okay. Switching gears, the South Node and the North Node, this is where your ego is. So if your South Node is Libra, you're good at doing family events, partner events, you know what I'm saying? This, that, and the third, balance. That's easy. What you have to ascend to is an Aries. Doing things on your own, being a leader without question. You know what I'm saying? Just going for it, doing the shit, not giving a fuck. You know what I mean? Opposite signs, same expression, because they both still care about people. They both are great leaders. One is the leader of action. One is the leader of thought. That's just how it goes. So when you look at whatever your North Node is, I mean your South Node and your North Node, they're going to be opposites. But remember, when you read your South Node, this is what you're already good at. You've done this. You mastered this. That's why it's easy. It projects through your sun sign because you've already done this. You've done this before. This gets easily projected through your sun sign no matter what it is. And when I say projected through your sun sign, I mean when shit gets hard, you're going to fall back in line and do what's easy. You're going to fall back in line and do what's up. You know what I'm saying? What you know to do. That's why the ego lives there, because we're in a place where the ego is highlighted. You know what I'm saying? In this matrix, in this construct, that's where we are. So whenever things get tough, or, you know, in this matrix, you're going to fall back on your ego because you're going to use your sword. That's just how it is. That's why ego ain't bad. It just is what it is. We all most people go on the attack. You know what I'm saying? But what you're trying to do is make it to your North Node, your shield, to protect yourself. You know what I'm saying? To understand that you don't always have to bust a nigga in the face. You know what I'm saying? But that's a hard transition too, because as you move from your South Node to your North Node, you'll learn how to use the sword and the shield together effectively to become a very well balanced and a great warrior. And like Sister Myra said, you become whole. You understand what I'm saying? So I hope all this is tracking. I hope it's making sense. You know what I mean? Because this world is real fucked up by ego. And it's just wild. It's like, yo, you know what I mean? It's really wild. And it don't seem to be getting no better. But this natal chart is the key. That's the directions to your game. So I'm telling you, your ego and the way you handle issues and people and just being on, you know, on some ego shit is coming from your South Node. That's where your ego is. When things get hard, you come back here. You've already mastered your South Node. This is where you're trying to go. When you read the blurb underneath your North Node, that shit is going to make you uncomfortable. Either it's going to make you uncomfortable or you're not even going to understand it, or you're just going to write that shit off. Like, man, whatever. I'm not doing that. You know what I'm saying? We use the Libra and the Aries. So if you know you're a people person and you cool and you know, whatever, and it's telling you got to be by yourself, you know what I'm saying? And you got to be by yourself and you got to be the leader and you got to make things happen without checking in with somebody else or getting someone else's opinion or whatever the case may be. And that's what you got to do right here. You just got to unequivocally believe in yourself. Yeah, you're going to be like, fuck that. Or you're going to say some shit, I already do believe in myself or whatever the case may be. But when you start reading your North Node, it should make you uncomfortable. It really should. Or you're just not going to really understand it. You know what I mean? So these are some of the the key points to your natal chart, man. It really is. But I really feel like I've discovered something, that your ego lives here in the South Node. That's big, because your ego is going to tell you how you really be treating this matrix. You call yourself, a Taurus, but you really be treating this shit like a Gemini. You feel what I'm saying? You really be treating this shit like a Scorpio. You feel what I'm saying? Like a Sagittarius. And yes, those aspects will still come out in your sun sign. But like I said, when shit gets rough, you always gonna go back to the baseline. And people get stuck here. That's why people get stuck in their ego. People get stuck here like a motherfucker. So many people are stuck here. This is the ascension process right here. This is what you're trying to do. You're trying to go up. And like I said, it's very difficult. But yeah, like I said, I hope that's tracking. I hope you stuck with me on this. And like I said, I encourage y'all to look at your natal chart, man, and really start to try to understand it. First and foremost, understand there's a shadow on each part of it. You know what I mean? On each part of it. When you read that Lilith, you're going to see like, oh shit, it's going to tell you where your emotional shadows are and what you need to do to beat it. And then this North Node and South Node is going to start talking about your ego and what you need to do to ascend to a higher place. And so let me break this down and write it down so you can see that there's always wholeness. There's always balance. So your Lilith on your chart, or dark moon Lilith on your chart, it's going to talk about your shield. You feel me? Your North and South Node are going to be representing or talking about your sword. You feel me? Y'all see how that, when you bring it back, even though this breaks down into a couple of things, this is how you use your sword. It's telling you where your ego is, right? It's telling you where your ego is. This is how you ascend to your spirit, to really learn how to use that sword. This is talking about your emotions. This is talking about your ego. This is your emotions. This is your ego. You know what I'm saying? This is the world. This is spirit world. It all starts to play out. It all starts to be whole. You know what I'm saying? Hold on. Yeah.
I need to use your background. Oh, are you recording?
So anyways. Yeah, please understand that. Your Lilith is talking about your emotions. Your North and South Node are talking about your ego. You got to learn how to balance your sword and your shield. When you learn that, you become an effective warrior. Now you're able to fight the shadows, those emotional shadows for that big boss Lilith. Once you're an effective warrior, Lilith has never been a bad guy. You feel what I'm saying? It's something that's really going to help you and transmute you and get you up out of here. You know what I'm saying? There's 12 signs. You know what I'm saying? But you're the 13. You're the one that goes out through the black dot, through the middle of the zodiac, and all of that good stuff that you may have heard and may not have heard before. You know what I mean? This is a crude zodiac wheel. Remember, you're the 13. You're trying to get out. So, anyways, I hope that tracks. I hope that makes sense. I hope that was clear. You know what I'm saying? It was something on my heart, on my spirit that I've been thinking about for a minute, that I really want to get out and do. But yeah, man, you got to get into this natal chart and start reading those directions and start understanding where you are, where you can win and where you lacking at. You know what I mean? But like I said, I ain't gonna hold you. I appreciate you. Hopefully you stay to the end. If anything, I'll holler at you. Peace.